Hi there everyone, I'm Ashley Billington and you're watching The Campfire. So, we've gone over the private schools, the small schools, 5A Division 2 and 1. Now, we're going into 6A. This week on The Campfire, we'll be deep diving into 13 6A. We are in 6A now. And it's a little bit different as there's no Division 1 and Division 2. That's decided in district play. But these are the teams that you'll be seeing in 13 6A.
Conroe, Grand Oaks, Oak Ridge, The Woodlands, College Park, and Willis.
You can vote for the team that you think will take the district crown on our Twitter. It's IHSS Houston. We also have a trivia question for you.
District 13 6A trivia. What popular TV show POOCH is Conroe alumni Larry Brantley the voice of? A. Goofy, B. Clifford, C. Blue, or D. Wishbone?
Okay, everyone, we want to know what you think the correct answer is to this trivia question. Put it in the comments of The Campfire on our social media platforms. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and we will release the correct answer on Saturday over the weekend. So see if you got it right. You've got to stay tuned. You can also listen to The Campfire, as well as all of our Inside High School Sports Houston catalog of podcasts at Apple Podcasts and at Spotify. Now it's time for the film session, presented by your local Geico offices in Cypress, Katy, Spring, and Pearland.
District 13 6A is a 16 district that includes 5 Conroe ISD schools. 4 of those 5 were in the very difficult District 15 6A the last 2 years. Most notable is the Woodlands. The Highlanders are coming off an 8-win season after reaching the 3rd round of the playoffs. Jim Rapp is set to begin his 3rd season as the Woodlands head coach. Rapp, of course, took over from Mark Schmidt, who is preparing for his 2nd season at the helm at Conroe Oak Ridge. The War Eagles went 3-7 last year when Schmidt stepped in as the interim head coach. Oak Ridge can rebuild around standout senior running back Alton McCaskill, who could be one of the top backs in the area this fall. Conroe just missed out on its first playoff berth in a decade last year, going 5-5 and 4-4 in league play. It was quite the turnaround for Conroe in Cedric Hardiman's 2nd season as the Tigers head coach. Look for Conroe to try and take the next step and earn that elusive postseason bid this year. College Park also went 5-5 last season, and the Cavs appear to be headed on an upward trajectory. College Park's defense made strides at the end of last season and could be the key for the Cavaliers to make their first postseason appearance since 2015. New school Conroe Grand Oaks is set to play its first full official schedule as a varsity program, after playing an independent schedule the last 2 seasons. The Grizzlies are led by Mike Jackson, who has more than a quarter century of head coaching experience, most recently at Lamar. Rounding out the district is Willis. The Wildcats move up from Class 5A, where they went 3-7 a year ago. Willis will look to rebuild and snap its 3-year postseason drought this fall.
And special teams are made of special players. We take a look at a few of those special players from 13 6A now and our players on the rise, presented by Grimaldi's Pizzeria.
4-star wide receiver Teddy Knox is on the rise for the Woodlands. Considered one of the fastest players in the state with a 4.42 40, he has the need for speed on the gridiron. The Highlanders will be battling it out in 2020 with one of the top receivers in the country, who will be a key piece of their offense. Conroe Oak Ridge running back Alton McCaskill is a player to look out for in 2020. Head coach Schmidt says that he will be the centerpiece of the offense for the War Eagles. Last season, McCaskill rushed for nearly 900 yards and 10 touchdowns. College Park's Dylan Hazen is a linebacker in the 2021 class. Hazen came on the scene as a sophomore with 73 total tackles and had 7 sacks. He continued to rise his junior year for the Cavaliers and will be needed for the 2020 season. Conroe linebacker Lane Odell will be a big contributor for the Tigers defense. Going into his senior season, Odell will try to help his squad overcome the tough competition they have coming in 2020. Odell was invited to play in the Tiki Bowl in January of 2021. Willis quarterback Still Bardwell will be looking to lead the Wildcats for his third season in 2020. At 6'3", Bardwell is an athletic, multi-sport athlete who is dedicated to the Wildcat way. In 2019, Bardwell was voted second team All-District.
And those players are great on the gridiron. But do you know somebody from the high school sports scene doing great in your community? A player, coach, or team going that extra mile? Nominate them for a Chevy Spotlight. To nominate, go to IHSSChevySpotlight.com and stay tuned to our social media platforms all summer long to see if your nomination is highlighted. Now it's time for our Media Day segment. We have Inside High School Sports producer Robert Sheik on to break down 136A a little more with us.
Hey there, everyone. We have producer Robert Sheik on with us for the Campfire this week. Robert, how's it going?
Glad to be here. It's going well.
So, District 13 6A, we're finally into 6A. It's been a long trek to get here, but 9 weeks in and finally into the big boys. District 13 6A, though, is an interesting one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As you mentioned, it's fun to be in 6A. Some great 5A football for sure in the greater Houston area, especially in 5A Division 1. But it doesn't get much better than 6A Texas high school football. And we start off with a bang. The schools, 5 Conroe ISD schools and Willis moving up from 5A. Let's dive right in. You talk about this district, you talk about the Conroe ISD schools. The first one that obviously comes to mind is the Woodlands. Just a big-time traditional power. And it's crazy, though, to think last year, late in the season, the Highlanders were on the outside looking into the playoff picture, and they had to rally to even make the playoffs. And once they did, they ended up winning a couple of playoff games, going 3 rounds deep, because that's what the Woodlands does, right? That's what the Highlanders do. So it was interesting to see, okay, they really got a challenge in a very, very difficult district. That might have been not just the best district in the greater Houston area last year. It might have been the best district in Texas, if you think about it, between those Klein ISD schools and the Conroe ISD schools. So I think the 5 Conroe ISD schools, or the 4 that carry over, that we'll start with, have to be thrilled that there's no more Klein Collins, there's no more Klein Oak, there's no more Klein Kane. Those 3 schools, remember, made the playoffs last year. And the 2 schools that were just on the outside looking in from that district were Conroe High and College Park. Both of those have had long playoff droughts and were so close to getting there, the last 2 years for College Park. And now they get to breathe a little bit, things kind of open up, and it's a 6-team district. So that means 2/3 of the district is going to make the postseason. So you're already starting, in a much better spot. 66.6% of the district is getting into the playoffs. That has to be a fun thing knowing going in. It's one of the smallest districts, if not the smallest district. I think it may be in Class 6A in the state. So, you odds from that standpoint. And then, rounding out the district, you have Conroe Oak Ridge, who we saw make the playoffs a couple years ago. And, again, is one of those programs that's, always just seems to kind of be right there. This will certainly help the War Eagles get to the playoffs, especially, and this is my favorite thing about this district, you have Mark Schmid, who led the Woodlands to the state championship game in 2016, I believe it was. Takes a year off, 2018, and last year decides to, take the interim head coaching role at Conroe Oak Ridge. Now he's the full-time head coach at Oak Ridge, and I think he knows a thing or two about how to win in this district and how to win in that on that side of town. So that definitely adds a wrinkle. It's going to be fun to watch. It's not like he still gets to bring his quarterback, his son Eric Schmid, who led the Highlanders to the state final that year, but he knows a thing or two about how to coach an offense and how to coach a football team. So, and he has a big time running back with him this year that he will have at Oak Ridge, Alton McCaskill, that he can really build something special around. So it'll be interesting to see how the War Eagles can fare. And then, you round out the district with Grand Oaks, a new school here in Conroe ISD, and we don't really know what to expect, but we do know that we have seen so many of these young programs a year or two in really make some strides. Obviously, we all know about what Shadows Creek has done the last 2 years, but you look at Bridgeland making the playoffs in its second year. Klein Cain, as we mentioned earlier, made the playoffs in its second year in that very difficult district. And then Katy Paetow also, in a second year in Class 5A, made the playoffs. So it doesn't take a lot of time for these young programs, in the right spot. So it'll be interesting to see what Grand Oaks can do. And then Willis moving up from Class 5A, it'll be interesting to see what the Wildcats can do. They have a 3-year starter at quarterback, which is a big help. And you have to love a quarterback with the first name of Steele, right? So everybody's going to be in the playoff mix, coming down to the last couple of weeks. So it'll definitely be a fun district to follow.
From our point of view, when you see the district like this, I mean, how much do you want to just pay attention and keep those teams and those games on your list of games that we need to be watching?
Well, and it's one of those things where every single week, obviously every coach and every player will tell you we're not going to take any weeks off, we're not going to look past anybody. But in this district, it very much is the case. And that is the thing about these smaller districts. There's so much less room for error. You can lose a game or two, if you're playing 8 or 9 district games. We saw the Woodlands last year. The Woodlands lost a couple district games early in the season, but they had plenty of time to battle back. And one of those teams that they lost to was Conroe. And Conroe was looking in great shape, but then there were still a few more games to go, and Conroe couldn't finish the season out to get into the playoffs. The Woodlands did finish strong. So when you only play 5 district games, though, like these teams are doing, that the margin for error is gone. So you can't slip up and let a team or two knock you off or upset you and think you still have time to battle back. No, you don't. Now, again, 4 out of these 6 teams will make the playoffs, so 2/3 of the district will make the playoffs. But still, you start messing around and you lose a game or two that you shouldn't. All of a sudden, you don't have a lot of time to make it up anymore. So, from that standpoint, it's kind of a catch-22, the small 16 district. On the one hand, yes, you have a better chance, or a higher percentage of teams are going to make the playoffs. But on the other hand, you play fewer games, so you lose a couple, and all of a sudden, you're in trouble. So it goes both ways, for sure.
Robert, thank you for your time and joining us here on the Campfire. We'll be right back after a few messages from our sponsors.
Chevrolet Inside High School Sports is brought to you by your Houston area Chevy dealers. Visit your nearest dealer to test drive our award-winning products. The film session is presented by your local Geico offices in Cypress, Katy, Spring, and Pearland. To get more information or a quote, go to geico.com/Houston. The Players on the Rise is presented by Grimaldi's Coal Brick Oven Pizzeria. Grimaldi's Pizzeria is open for dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. Visit Grimaldi'sPizzeria.com.
Welcome back to the Campfire. District 13-6A is going to be interesting this season, as the Conroe teams have left their Klein rivals and will be all playing each other in this one district with 6 teams, along with Willis. So, what's going to happen? The Woodlands, Conroe, Oak Ridge, and Conroe are all going to be competing for those top spots in this district. But who will come out on top? It's now time for the district breakdown. We bring in Inside High School Sports Insider Matt Harris to answer some of those questions for us. Matt, over to you.
Thanks, Ashley. We kick off our 6A coverage with District 13 this week, and this is a district that looks starkly different from what it was the last 2 years. If you ever tuned in to our Friday night postgame show, the fifth quarter last season, you know District 15 6A was one of my favorites to watch. Now, 15 6A is essentially split in half, with the Conroe ISD schools going to 13 6A. Now, one of the most unique districts in the state, being that it's the only 6A district to include just 6 teams. That means 4 schools make the playoffs, while just 2 will miss out. It's better odds than anywhere else in the state. With all that being said, let's start with a school that barely missed out on the playoffs in a deeper district a season ago, the Conroe Tigers. For Conroe, there's good news and bad news. The good news is they went 5-5 a season ago, including an even 4-4 record in a pretty tough district. The other good news is the Tigers will return a terrific front seven that includes linebackers Lane Odell and Tyler Trantham, as well as defensive lineman Kamari Weatherspoon. The bad news is Conroe will lose most of its offensive production as quarterback Christian Pack and dynamic wideout Michael Phoenix are both gone. Now with a 2/3 shot to get in by virtue of having a 16 district, Conroe figures to be firmly in the mix for a playoff spot, but replacing Pack and Phoenix won't be easy. While Conroe was eliminated on the final day of the regular season in 2019, one team that made it in the back end of the playoffs in that same district was the Woodlands. The Highlanders fell off a bit last season after suffering some injuries in the middle of the season, but they were able to bounce back nicely to close the season strong, bowing out in the third round of the playoffs to a good Prosper team. Similar to Conroe, the Highlanders will have plenty of offensive talent to replace. Running back Brighton Guilford carried the offense in 2019, and it'll be tough to replace his production. Gone too is quarterback Peyton Jansek. However, Cody Howard got some looks early last year at the QB spot and is primed to take over. Aiding in his transition to the starting role will be wideout Theodore Knox, considered to be one of the best wide receivers in Texas. I fully expect the Woodlands to be back in the playoffs, and the Highlanders are my favorite to win 13-6A. My team to watch in this district will be the Oak Ridge War Eagles. A 3-7 record doesn't seem like much, but the Eagles are returning loads of talent. That'll be led by explosive running back Alton McCaskill, whose recruitment's picking up a lot of steam, as well as a trio of solid linebackers including fellow Division I recruit Casey Osai. There's a spot to be filled at quarterback, but I think the return of Oak Ridge's most important playmakers will have them in the playoffs in 2020. Another school that narrowly missed the playoffs last season is College Park. The Cavaliers have a combined record of 11-9 in the last 2 seasons, but no playoff appearances to show for it. They'll return wide receiver Holden Rook, which will help continue the winning ways College Park is used to. Like the rest of the teams we've discussed so far, College Park is coming over from 15-6A and expect the Cavaliers to make the playoffs in a much smaller district from what they were competing in. Our final 2 teams to discuss are unlike the rest of the district in that they did not compete in 15-6A last season. Willis moves up after spending the last 2 seasons in 5A Division I. The Wildcats went just 3-7 last year, but like Oak Ridge, they return a ton of talent, and there's plenty of reason for optimism, with Steele Bardwell returning at quarterback, Johnny McHenry joining him in the backfield, and Jacoby McCoy returning as Bardwell's top target. Together, those 3 will lead an offense that had no struggle scoring points in 2019. The Wildcats scored in double digits in every game. If they can figure out how to stop teams on defense, Willis could absolutely contend for a spot in the playoffs. The last team in this district deserves a little welcome. Grand Oaks will play its first full varsity season after spending the first 2 years of existence not playing in any district. The Grizzlies will have a benefit that no other team in Texas will. They don't lose a single player from last year's squad, which was made up of only freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. It's tough to know what Grand Oaks brings to the table because they've played hardly any games. However, I'll be very intrigued to see how they compete and who stands out as the first senior class in school history looks to leave its mark. That leaves us once again with our final order of business for this week, my team and player to watch. I already ruined the surprise on team to watch for this district, but I'll give my reasoning. I picked Oak Ridge because I think the War Eagles have a chance to have a special team after 2 pretty unspectacular seasons. They're strong on defense and return one of the better offensive players in all of Houston in Alton McCaskill. I think they'll have a shot to contend at a district title, and I think they have a very realistic shot at a second place finish in the district. My player to watch is Theodore Knox of the Woodlands. Knox has picked up plenty of buzz on the recruiting trail and could be the key cog to carrying the Woodlands to another deep playoff run. As a bonus, I want to say keep an eye on Grand Oaks. They may not be the most exciting team in the area, but we've seen plenty of magic in first-year schools before. Just ask Shadow Creek. Once again, thanks Ashley, and back to you.
Matt, thank you so much for your insight. It was great as always. That's all we have for this week's episode of The Campfire. Come back every Monday for a new show. And throughout the week, follow our social accounts. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube that'll be bringing you original content all covering this week's District 13 6A. Until next time, I'm Ashley Bullington, and thank you for watching The Campfire.